Okay, so this is my final presentation for Introduction to Art. For my final presentation, I wanted to cover Jackson Pollock because I liked his style of painting, and it was a bit controversial, so it was kind of cool to read about. But Jackson Pollock was born on January 28th, 1912. He died August 11th, 1956, only at the age of 44. As a man, Pollock was described by his contemporaries as gentle and contemplative when sober, but violent when drunk. These extremities found equilibrium in his art. He was highly intelligent, he was widely read, and he was incessantly articulate. He believed that art derived from the unconscious. He saw himself as the essential subject of his paintings, and he judged his work on its inherent authenticity of personal expression. In his early years, in late 1920s, he moved to Los Angeles, where he studied under Frederick John D. St. Vrain, a painter and illustrator who was a member of the Theosophical Society. So a lot of his earlier ideas were derived from there, and later he moved to New York in 1930, following his brother Charles, where he enrolled at the Art Students League. There he studied life drawing, painting, and composition. He started painting and developing his style. In 1937, Pollock began psychiatric treatment for alcoholism. He actually suffered a nervous breakdown in 1938. This caused him to be institutionalized for about 4 months. But these experiences all brought out his work to become semi-abstract, which later led to being fully abstract expressionism, which is what he is most known for. He's also most known for creating the drip style technique, and I'll show you that later on. But from his earlier work, we'll look at this is the She-Wolf, and it is one of his more mythical works. Pollock said himself, "She-Wolf came into existence because I had to paint it. Any attempt on my part to say something about it, to attempt explanation of the inexplicable, could only destroy it." This is Pollock's first work to enter a museum collection. The artist's heavy black and white lines, as you can tell, are covered by abstract lines and spaces. It's said to reflect the climate of the period shadowed by war, as this was during the end of World War II. And moving on to stenographic figure, which he did in 1943. It's very different from his earlier somber pictorial spaces. It's very bright and airy. It is often read as a reclining female whose head is in the profile in the upper left, and torso throughout the middle, and feet at the end. You can also see it as a figure near the right edge of the canvas and another just to the left of the center. But this painting gathered much praise, especially from a Dutch artist, Piet Mondrian, who described it as the most interesting work he's ever seen in America. Moving on to The Key in 1946. This is right before Pollock started introducing his drip style technique. The Key was painted to signify this new emerging field of America artwork at a time where European artwork was dominating the world. The Key was painted in a bedroom that took up most of the floor space. Pollock would work around the canvas, laid on the floor. He did this because he could get different views of the art and the directions he wanted all over, and this facilitated his all-over style painting, which he also incorporated in his drip style. As you can see, it is very drippy. It looks drippy. But this is number 5. Pollock stopped naming his pieces after he started incorporating this technique. Later on, some of his pieces got names, but in this series, he just named them after numbers. This piece was sold by David Geffen, co-founder of DreamWorks, to David Martinez for $140 million. In Pollock's time, he couldn't even get his artwork to sell for more than 10 grand, so the population of his pieces now are widely accepted. Another one he did, a blue pole, as you can see, it's the same technique. This one is worth at least $180 million, said by the South Aspie's Australian director David Cook. And it is also considered one of the most famous paintings in the series. It is also number 11. Convergence in 1952 is the most famous abstract expressionist painting from the 20th century. As you can see, its dark tones, oranges, reds, yellows, and whites all fight for attention as they converge together into this chaotic painting. Jackson said it was directly challenging convention, both artistic and political, fighting for freedom for speech at a time when many in the U.S. felt the fundamental right was under threat. So he related a lot of what was going on at the times into his paintings, which I think is why they also were widely accepted and became popular. One of my favorites, The Deep, was painted in 1953. It was just a unique style that he started to come out with, different from anything he's ever done. You will not see the bright color of Convergence that we saw earlier, but more like a grayscale, which shades a slightly new artistic path. This is one of the pieces I really liked and enjoyed. But my favorite piece I found was Full Fathom 5, sorry. This was painted in 1947. Full Fathom 5 is a lace-like top layer. It was made consisting of house paint. Pollock built up the underlayer of this painting using a brush and palette knife, but if you look really close, an assortment of objects embedded in the surface, including cigarette butts, nails, thumbtacks, buttons, coins, and a key. You can see those. Although they are obscured by paint, they make the work dense and encrusted appearance. The title comes from Shakespeare's play The Tempest, in which the character Ariel describes a death by shipwreck. She says, "Full fathom 5 thy father lies. Of his bones are coral made. Those are pearls that were his eyes." So yeah, this is definitely probably my favorite painting of his. And here are my references, and I hope you guys learned a little bit about Jackson Pollock, and thank you for tuning in. Bye.